Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I kind of want to talk about, character deaths. Like, when it's like, whether it's like a main character or at very least a recurring character that dies in like, whether it's a TV show, movie, books, even though I don't read books, but nevertheless, or anime, yada, yada, yada. Even though I've never watched it, not because I don't like it or I wouldn't like it, it's just I've never taken time to really get into it, is Game of Thrones. And one thing I do know about that show is notorious for killing off characters. It's like, no character is 100% safe or guaranteed because any character could get killed at any moment in time, so don't get too attached. And I appreciate that when it comes to like a story. Like, granted, character deaths in general, like whether it's a main character or a recurring character, I always feel bad, especially obviously like it hits you more when you're attached to a character. Like, I think the most recent example of that, what would that be? Well, I won't say just because that'll be entering spoiler territory for certain, but obviously, like, if you listen to me on the podcast, you know how I feel about certain character deaths and stuff like that. Like, person of interest, I've literally gone extensively on, like, in the podcast when I was talking about person of interest about certain character deaths that kind of got me hard. Like willing to kill off any character. Obviously you have shows like The Walking Dead that kind of follow that as well. But to be fair, there's certain boundaries, like, and this applies to a lot of stories where it's like, yeah, you're like, yeah, this show could kill off anyone, but will they kill off anyone? Because it's like, yeah, there's certain, like, there's certain main characters you're like, yeah, that main character's protected because they have plot armor. There's no like killing them because they're like main tier protagonist level, so they can't die, or at least, which isn't always the case, because obviously, but usually if a main character dies, it's usually at the end of a series, like, spoiler alert, like, Breaking Bad, for example, and Walt dies at the end. So that's a situation like that. Cowboy Bebop too. Like, that's always been an ambiguous thing, but I vaguely remember reading years ago that the creator was like, yeah, Spike died at the end, but maybe I'm full of shit on that, but nevertheless. Usually those type of situations happens where it's like, at least the hero dies at the very end, so I don't know if that really counts. Even then, I still have a hard time digesting those stories too, because it's like, I want all the heroes to, like, leave a story fine, so I don't know, because it's like, like we brought up before, like, it's always interesting when there's a character that you're attached to and you see their story come to an end like that, because, like, it's a big part of storytelling, because obviously it develops not only just the story, but it also develops the characters, because now the characters have to deal with this said character's death and everything, and kind of like dealing with it. Like, probably like my first experience with like a main character dying in anything, that's where like it kind of blew my mind away, was Final Fantasy VII with Aerith. God, it's been so long, because I know Kingdom Hearts changed their name to like Aerith, so that's why it's like I'm so not used to calling her by her original name that I actually forgot. I think it's Aerith. But like, her dying, which, spoiler alert for a game that's like literally 20 years old at this point in time, especially considering the fact that they're remaking it too. So, but nevertheless, it's like, that was the first time I was like, holy crap, main characters can die in a story? It's like, what? Because there's other situations kind of similar to that. You take something like Gurren Lagann, where you have the character like Kaname who set up like, oh, this is your hero, and like obviously he's gonna lead a team, and it's like, oh, spoiler alert, he dies, because the whole series is about his story is there to kind of set Simone up to become the new hero, to kind of have to step up, and I appreciate that story. It still sucks, but I understand, like I said, it brings around that character development of forcing a character that might not have been main character or hero material to kind of have to step up and become the hero they, like, everyone needs them to be. Then again, it's kind of full circle back around to like stuff like Game of Thrones and Walking Dead levels. Obviously you have stuff like Danganronpa, which obviously that is a little different, because the whole purpose of that is to kill off characters. If you're not familiar with Danganronpa, it's like a murder mystery thing where it's like main characters, like you're with a set number of characters at the beginning of the story. It's a not a visual novel, sorry. It's a visual novel that basically, like, as time progresses, like slowly but surely you're trying to figure out this mystery as people are being murdered, and you have to figure out who done it. And so that's a situation where it's like, definitely like never get too attached to any character, because you never know which character is going to get killed next. So like I was saying, like, Danganronpa is kind of its own thing. Like, that's kind of where the story kind of revolves around. Like, I'm not actually sure of any situations where it is like just purely killing a character just to kill the character off. I know that's something that happens too, where there's situations where there's characters that are killed off simply because it's like, oh, generally like viewers of the show didn't like this character. It's just like, oh, this character was created specifically to die, so because it happens, like, like the most recent example, and it's something I can't believe it never really crossed my mind. Like, it's literally in its 12th season, and the TV show Supernatural. But it never occurred to me that a lot of times that show has a tendency to bring characters back. They're not like main characters, but they're characters that have maybe popped up once or twice before. The show will literally bring a character back you haven't seen in years, bring them back just so you can kill them off. Or it's like I was using before, an example of like this character was created just for you to later on decide to kill them all. You know, like I said, that all really depends on the writing process. Maybe they wrote this character initially planning to keep them around, but they're like, no, it's a lot more impactful if we go ahead and kill this character off now. I mean, without going into too many details, like, once again, entering spoiler territory, so it's like, there's like some recent character deaths on Supernatural. Once again, like, I kind of talked about this in the podcast when I was talking about the finale and stuff. It's like, I don't know if those will stick or not, you know, because there's always like ways around that. Especially when it came to one of the characters, I'm like, that I feel like he found a way around it, but I was like, maybe I was 100% wrong about that particular character. But you know, like, that's something you have to wait and like see or whatever, you know. So I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's what my question is. Like, how do you feel about character deaths? You know, whether it's a main character's death or a recurring character, you know, a character pops up frequently. Like, is it less impactful to you if it's like say like this is a character that's connected to so-and-so's past. It's like, this is a character you only know vicariously through this particular character. It's like, oh, this is this character's brother that you've only met like twice and they died. Does that really matter to you? I mean, I guess if you sold the relationship in other shapes or form, then obviously it would. But just in general, like, how do you feel about character deaths? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Like I said, I'm kind of in between. Like, from a storytelling perspective, I appreciate what they do and what they represent, but at the same time, it's like, I also hate them because it makes me sad, especially when it's a character that you've grown so attached to and you care about, and you know, like, their story ends here. And also, you know I'm asking a lot of questions also about hero deaths. Like, how would you like a hero story to end with them kind of going out in a blaze of glory type of situation of like, you know, which story, like, I know most people might feel like, oh, I prefer a happy ending, but would you really like that for a lot of your heroes? Or, you know, or does it really depend on the story? Like, depending if that person was like a good guy or a bad guy, like, you know, hero or anti-hero type of situation would determine whether or not you want them to have like that good ending, or where you're like, no, I want you to go out, you know, fighting and just kind of like let this be your last stand type of situation. I'd love to know your thoughts all in the comments. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.